good day to you all. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm excited about this one because I think a few of you might learn a little bit more about me than you actually knew. In terms of, I actually got into investing through the FTSE 100 and stocks and shares. And I got given a quote one day that we'll get onto, and then that led me to the world of property. And then in more recent times, I've been thinking more about diversifying my investments and going back to some stocks and shares and some crypto and some other bits and pieces. So today's guest is going to be very apt for one of my goals for 2025. So I'm glad to get this in nice and early in the year. So Simon, can you please introduce yourself?
Brilliant. Well, thank you firstly for having me on, Gavin. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Simon Taylor. I'm a crypto investor and trader. And yeah, I've said to Gav at the very start of this, let's have a gloves off, two blokes down the pub, just having a good chat about the elephants in the room about crypto, because it can have a bit of a bad stigma. So yeah, let's have a real good chat about it. Let's deep dive and see if we
Good,
can give your audience some value today.
good man, Simon. Well, thank you for that. I mean, obviously, it is property based. So let's just obviously you had a property or you've done property in the past. So
Yeah.
what got you into property? And then we'll get into how that's led you to crypto as the conversation flows. I think that'd be a fair way to go about it, Simon, would you say?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm originally an engineer by trade. I was an engineer for probably about 16, 17 years. I was a refrigeration and aircon engineer. So spent my life in all kinds of working environments, really.
Yeah.
Offices, building sites, big distribution centres.
Yeah.
I was industrial and commercial, so I've worked on all kinds of machinery. And I think that's kind of what headed me towards property and crypto in general, because I think an engineer's mind is very technical and we
Yeah.
don't like taking things on face value. So
Yeah.
by nature, I'm very analytical, and like to know the ins and outs of everything. So I spent 17 years as an engineer.
Uh-huh.
Always wanted to get into property investment because it's just what everybody did.
Yeah.
When you want to be successful, when you want to create a legacy for your family, um, you just want to leave something of worth. Because I think, especially as men, I'm sure women are the same. It's not a sexist comment, but as men, we're providers, and there's something about us that even if we're not here, not only do we like to provide for our families, um, our missus and kids, and parents and people around us when we're
Yeah.
alive. When we die, we want to leave something of worth, to make sure that they're taken care of. And property always seemed to be something that you could leave as a bit of a legacy.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
always wanted to get into property and never really had the balls to do it, to be honest, until I got a little bit poorly. Now I've shared this on many podcasts and my channel,
Yeah.
etc. I'm a cancer survivor,
Yeah. I
so
see that.
yeah, so I'm all good now, all fully recovered.
Good. Good. Good.
But there was a time in my late 20s where I got diagnosed, not long after being married, a couple of years after being married, and
Wow.
what it did was it shook my life. It was
Right.
lymphoma and leukemia together, and yeah, it shook my life, and it made me think differently, which is how I got into property. So on the hospital bed, I'm there studying, and they're thinking, right, well, how can I make it where even when I'm poorly or even when I'm dead, it's just how I was thinking.
Wow. Mm.
How can I make it where my wife's still taken care of, my family's
Mm-hmm.
still okay? Because as a
Yeah.
man and as a provider, I was on a hospital bed thinking, well, I can't flip in work.
Mm.
Where do I turn?
Yeah.
It was 3 years of treatment, so it was pretty brutal,
Wow.
pretty brutal. 13 different types of chemo to get rid of it over a 3 year period. But
Wow.
thankfully, it's made me think a lot differently now. So start studying on the hospital bed and thought, right, how can I do this? Property seemed the easiest route, in terms of, well, that's just what people do. I had property investor friends.
Yeah.
I'd helped them with their projects as well. Never really wanted to put my money near it because I find that before I was ill, and it shouldn't take this, but before I was ill, I had a very risk averse kind of mentality. I wanted to pay my mortgage off,
Mm.
wanted to save my money in the bank,
Yeah.
make sure that I was okay for a rainy day. But the rainy
So
day,
many people do though, don't they? So many people are that. yeah, in any type of investment, so many people are like, oh, I've got to pay my mortgage off first. I need to get some money in the bank.
Totally. Well, the rainy day came, Gav,
Yeah,
and I wasn't okay.
yeah,
That's the thing. I wasn't okay. I was thinking, well, flipping it, what do I do here? So started studying on my hospital bed. I started studying trading and property, but property kind of took trumps, and trading was something I did on the side as
yeah,
well as my engineering, because I didn't get into property and then all of a sudden just jump. It was got into property alongside engineering. Was doing up properties. I actually got into deal sourcing to begin with,
yeah,
where we source deals for investors, package them up, do all the due diligence, etc. That's the mind I was in. I loved the due diligence. I loved finding out about the intricacies of the properties, whether they needed any refurb work or anything like that. I just loved all the due diligence side
that
of
would
it.
be the technical side of your engineering job, though, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I love, and that's where I kind of go to. And then that really took on and took off. And to be honest, that's what got me out of a job. A lot of people, they get into property and they say that once I've got a load of properties, it's passive income, and then I'm all good and I can quit my job. For me, I thought, hold on a sec, 'cause I've got a lot of drive as a person. Hold on a
Yeah,
sec. If I sold my first deal for £4,000. It was a 7-bed HMO in West Bridgford in Nottingham,
yeah,
and someone bought it for £4,000, and I was thinking, this is insane. I was pinching myself, if I'm honest. I was
yeah,
thinking, this is flipping insane, man. £4,000 for going out and doing some due diligence, because it felt easy. Deal sourcing's quite difficult, but it felt easy. I was
yeah,
thinking, well, if my salary's probably 2,500 after tax, after your company van and all that, and with a bit of overtime, I might be pushing 2,800. I've just spent a week finding a property for an investor, and they've just bought this from me. I would say no questions asked, but how detailed I was with my due diligence, being a deal sourcer, there weren't many questions left, because I was very, very thorough, and I was thinking, flipping heck, well, if I rinse and repeat this,
mm,
2 deals is 8 grand, 4 deals is 16 grand. This is like a couple of months' wages for me.
yeah,
So it was actually a rent to rent HMO deal. So then, obviously, because I was sourcing deals, I
yeah,
then came across the deals, and then I thought, hold on a sec, I've got the I've got the choice of whether I keep this deal or sell the deal. Well, I was
yeah,
doing a bit of both, and before you know it, your property portfolio builds up,
yeah,
and you're in a place where you've got the passive income, and of course you're sourcing for investors as well. But that's how I got into property. Um, and a bit of
so,
SA as well, a bit of serviced accommodation.
yeah,
That's tough though. That's a tough gig. It's not as easy as
yeah.
you think.
We've got a few of them, mate.
It is. We did a few self-managed. That was tough. So then we outsourced it to management companies. That was tough, because it's hard to find good management companies, to
Yeah,
be honest. Um,
it seems to be a bit of a reoccurring theme here with properties. A lot tougher than it's potentially made out to be, right?
totally, mate. And that is why I got into crypto.
Yeah. So you've obviously gone down the route of the property. You built up a bit of a portfolio. You're doing obviously. You was good at the due diligence. You enjoyed the numbers and
Yeah.
that side of things. So what is it you're doing now? And how did the shift go from property into what you were doing now? What obviously we've just touched on the fact that property can be tough, and the whole practicality of property in its sense might sound relatively straightforward, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes. What
Yeah.
shifted?
So people say that property's passive, and it's not really passive. It can be if you really systemize it, but if you really systemize it and you outsource a lot of things, it then comes off your margin, so you end
Yeah,
up paying less. If you've got an agent looking after your properties, all of a sudden that's a massive chunk, and then you've got repairs costs, and people tend to equal problems, from my experience. I love people. At the moment, we'll move on to it in a second. I am a mentor, so I do love people. I do love training people. I love working with people. But when it comes to vendors, landlords, and tenants, and people that stay in your service accommodation properties, my word, they're just, there's nothing queer as folk, as they say. It's
yeah,
just some people. What we class as ludicrous, they class as normal, and we class as normal, they class as
yeah.
abnormal. They just do strange things. They just don't pay the rent for whatever reason,
Mm. I
and
mean,
it
my
just
best one with the rent, and it still blows my mind now, is a couple got married. and they spent too much on their wedding and just assumed as a landlord I'd give them a month off. And I just like in my head, just going, I didn't even get invited to the wedding. Like, I don't know you. And you're literally just assuming I'm going to give you a month's free rent and I'm going to pay the mortgage. I just, yeah. So I mean, a great quote that people equal problems, and it is, solicitor vendors, people that are even buying properties. I've been trying to move myself in the last year. Twice the people have pulled out for no real reason, and that the problems that causes me and the chain moving forward is, stressful.
Yeah, because people in their madness, they just justify it that, oh, it's fine. Everybody's got their own justification as to why they're right. We're all just as bad as each other. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just nuts. So lockdown came. So I'm trading in the background as well as property. I'm getting a lot of things wrong. I've made more mistakes than anybody in trading, if I'm honest, and investing. I bought at the top, sold at the bottom, lost so much money. Lockdown's come. Now, because I'm classed as clinically vulnerable, not now, but I was classed as clinically vulnerable, 5 years after I'd finished all my treatment, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excuse me. I have got a cold, by the way, audience, so if I am coughing a bit, I'm getting over the back end of it. But
No.
lockdown came, and I was classed as clinically vulnerable, so they said that I couldn't really leave the house. And when COVID first came out, let's be
Mm-hmm.
real, none of us knew whether it could kill you or not. We
Yeah.
just, a couple of us were trying to think: is it a conspiracy? Should we be listening to the conspiracy theorist? Is it a something that is just over exaggerated, etc. But I had a few people close to me that got really ill with it, and some even died. So I thought, well, this is real stuff. Whether some people are okay and some people aren't, I
Yeah.
need to be careful just in case, for whatever reason, for all I've been through,
Yeah.
I might be one of them that in your DNA, genetically, you don't know how you're going to respond. Turns out I've had COVID about 5 times since, and I've shook it off no problem. But
Yeah.
at the time, everything was new, and you just didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm there, can't leave the house, gone from being a landlord, being able to travel the country, deal sourcer, etc. I can no longer do that. So started to set up businesses, started to think, right, well, I've incorporated problems before with my health, etc., and I've kind of been able to build off that and create different income streams. Massive believer on multiple streams of income, because if
Yeah.
one fails or two fail, you've got stuff to fall back on. So start setting up teams of deal sources up and down the country from Brighton to Scotland. They
Okay.
started being the hands and feet for us, being able to go out, source deals, etc. And then because of our investors list, we were able to sell deals then to investors that were being co-sourced with these guys. It was brilliant. It was a great little team, etc. But again, came with its problems. But what I found around that time, I was into trading a little bit,
Yeah.
but really started to ramp it up around 2019, 2020, because I realised, hold on a sec, if I get this right,
Yeah.
this could be a real good money earner. And the
Uh,
only person I can blame if something goes wrong is me. It's
yeah.
me sitting in my underpants, looking at the screen, thinking, right, well, I'll buy here and I'll sell here, buy low, sell high. The question was, where do I buy and sell? So start to
Yeah.
really get into it, really start to study. And the only way I seem to learn is pain. I
Right.
seem
Okay.
You can tell me 1,000 times if something's going to go wrong, but for me, I need to experience and roll around in the mud myself to see it. So,
Isn't that
for
the
you,
best way of learning, though? In the trenches, getting it wrong,
yeah,
making mistakes.
yeah, totally that. And I just made loads of mistakes, got into it, and thought, well, the wins were good. The losses were painful, but the wins were good, and it made me feel good, and it ticked that dopamine rush in my head, that adrenaline rush of wow. So I just loved the fact that I could invest in an asset if I got it right, and I could go from zero to flipping £1,000 or 0 to £5,000 in minutes. And I was thinking, whoa, this has got to be. Yes, I've made many losses, but if I continually got this right or learnt a way in order to get this right more times than I get it wrong. The thing I like about math is you can't argue with math. You can argue with many things these days because, everybody's got an opinion and
Mm-hmm.
everybody thinks they're right, don't they? We all
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But with math, you can't argue with it. The numbers don't lie. They are what they are. It's logical. So I was like, well, surely I've witnessed that I can win in trading and investing. I've witnessed that because I've seen it and it's in my wallet. I've also witnessed that I can lose.
Yeah.
So I started to keep a journal with it all. And I started thinking, well, write down everything that went wrong with each trade and
Yeah.
everything that went right with each trade. Now, how about logically, if engineering brain, technical, how about if I stayed away from the things that go wrong as much as possible, as much as I can control, and
Yeah.
only focus on the things that went right? So you only need to do that 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 500 times in trades to realise, right, that list of doesn't work. I need to stay well away from it.
Yeah.
I need to focus purely on what's going right. What goes right in trading? What happens when I win? It might
Yeah.
be all the lines, the different, I call them lines, I don't want to confuse your audience, the support and resistance, the volume lines, the
Yeah.
VWAPs, the EMAs, all of these tools that we use to generate trades and build trades. That's one part of it. The
Yeah.
second part of it can be your mindset. So the missus is popped out shopping and she says, right, look after the dog and then walk the dog. And when she gets back, she wants the house hoovering, etc. or whatever. Not that she bosses me around, but you know,
Doesn't
well,
sound like it.
yeah, she definitely does. But it's like I used to then go into trades just before I'm about to walk the dog,
Yeah.
or just before we're about to go out for a meal. I'd think, oh, I'm going in this trade because it looks like a good one. And then that would contribute to trades going wrong. Sometimes the trades can be the mindset or the bad habits that you've got. So they
Mm.
got added to the list of things to stay away from
Yeah.
and things that went wrong. Because in trading, I always say it's 80% mindset and 20% skill. Once you learn the skill, that's great. What about the mindset? It's half the time in life, if you can look at it like this, when things go wrong, most of the time it's our own fault. Most of the time we've done something mostly to contribute towards that.
Yeah. I get that.
I mean, to be honest, it's not been medically proven, but I would
Mm.
say I've got a lot of responsibility for why I got cancer. You can't say that, sign. Well, I just did, and it's me, and it's my story, and I know, it's.
Right.
I think the levels of stress that I put myself under, the circumstances that I allowed in my life at the time, they they contributed to my stress levels. And anybody that knows anything about health knows that if you've got a high environment of stress and anxiety in your
Mm.
internals,
Yeah.
it can basically contribute massively to the breeding of disease.
Mm.
So I take responsibility in everything that I do
Mm.
in life, and I had this confirmed by listening to Grant Cardone's The
Mm.
10X Rule. I love that book because
Mm. That's a very interesting point you say there, actually, and a couple of points you've touched on there in regards to the trading that can be related. That not just to trading, I don't feel as well. You can relate that to property. You can relate that
yeah,
to fitness. I know you're into your fitness as well.
yeah,
You know why look. We should look at these things. What's gone wrong with a property deal as much as what's
yeah,
gone wrong with a trading deal. And I don't. You don't hear many people, and I spend a lot of time around a lot of property people, and you don't really hear a lot of people looking back and writing down what went wrong over a deal and what to stay away from. So I think that's a really good point to take. But in any form of investing as well, like and you touched on the multiple streams of income. Which we've got a diverse portfolio, so that helps from that. But I
mm-hmm,
come away from investments and I've been utilising my dividends for quite a long time now. But it's
mm-hmm,
time for me to um, get back into. I've not had, thankfully, my health's been good, and I've not had, the unfortunate issue that you've had. And pleased you've obviously got through it and pushed forward. Now you're healthy. But for me, it's a different start. I'm at that stage in my life where you've had a tough year with the properties last year, and I've looked at it and gone, that rainy day's come, and really the property's not actually fulfilled to the right level of what I want to continue my lifestyle. So
yeah.
that's what's pushing me back in to diversifying and getting into something different. So why have you chosen crypto then out of all the other things? What excited you about crypto? Because crypto can be, a lot of people can shy away from it. It's got a bit of a bad press, and people don't ultimately believe it's sort of not a scam. It's not true. So what appealed to you about crypto, and why have you gone down this path?
Yeah, totally. So linked up to what I just said about the writing everything that went wrong with my trading journey and everything that went right, I finally started to create a blueprint
Right.
of everything that I needed to do in order to make this lucrative and, more than anything, consistent. Because your listeners, if they're into crypto, you will have had your fantastic days where you're up, you're winning, and then you spend half your time chasing your tail in the red. We all know what it feels like to win. So consistency is everything. I managed to be able to get it where I was consistently winning. Anyway, what really attracted me to crypto rather than stocks and shares, I did stocks and shares. I remember when Rolls Royce dumped in 2021. I bought a load of Rolls Royce stocks, etc. But stocks just seem really slow to me, really slow. So it felt a little bit, and our portfolio is diverse, but most of it is in crypto. To be honest, is it felt like I'd missed the boat. It felt like it was very slow. It's $1 trillion market, the stock market is. So in order to get the market to move quite, with volatility, people say volatility is bad, and I'll explain why it's a good thing in a second. You have to get, in order to get that price to move, you need a lot of investors. You need a lot of trades going on. It's very slow moving. It's very old hat. If you're futures trading with the stock market, it's slightly different because it can be more volatile. But if you're just buying and holding and seeing what happens and letting the price rise, that's great. But for me, I wanted to make a living out of it.
Right.
And what I found with crypto is crypto's very volatile. And I like that, because volatility to me means that the price is going to move up and down daily, quite vastly.
Going to provide opportunity.
Because the crypto market at the time when I got in was $1 billion market cap. I think it was just shy of $1 trillion when I first got into it and started taking it seriously anyway. Which means that if I always compare it to, if you drop a boulder into a lake, that's like the stock market. It's not going to make much of a ripple. It's going to make a big splash, but it's not going to make much damage. So the price movement's quite slow. If you drop a boulder into the liquidity pool that's crypto, for instance, into a large puddle, it's going to create a massive eruption and explosion, which is what you get with crypto. Because the liquidity pool and the amount of traders that's trading, the volume of traders that's trading at one point is lower, it gives us more opportunities each day to trade the market. Now, for instance, to make a 500 to $1,000 a day, which are my minimum targets, I only need 1 to 2% move, and in the crypto market, you're going to get that all day long. On a average day, you're getting 5% moves if you buy in right at key support levels. So I chose crypto because I feel like and I am, and to your listeners, you are early to the party. They say that only 6% of the globe are invested in crypto at the moment.
Such a small number. Yeah,
well, if you get in now, even if you buy and hold and don't even trade and just invest, imagine when it's 10% or 12%, it's going to double in terms of the market cap, which means that most things are going to, multiply, tenfold at least over the years. So it's just such an exciting sphere to be in. And you said, well, it's got a bad rep. It has. I always say crypto's not evil. Crypto's not a scam. It's the people. Remember what we said, people equal problems.
Yeah.
It's the people that are scammy, that are trying to bring the criminality into it and rip people off and pinch people's monies, etc. And it's like, if you get it right, if you give your money to a broker and you lick your finger and stick it in the air and you think I should be okay, well, you're going to get scammed. If you take charge of your money, which is what we teach, you're in control of your wallet, you're in control of your bank, the crypto exchange, how much you trade with, how much you can take back out and put in, etc. You're in charge of that. You can risk assess your situation where less things can go wrong.
Yeah.
But that's why I chose it, because we're early to the party, and once you understand how it all works, and you've got an element of control in there.
So what is it you're doing now? So you touched on you're doing some training and mentoring. What is it you're offering to people at the moment?
So we've got an academy, a training academy. I've pretty much given my life to it, because people say, well, why are you a mentor? If you've made all this money from trading, why do you need to train people? I love people. At the beginning of the thing, I said people equal problems, and yes, tenants and landlords and solicitors, etc. do.
Yeah.
But there's a different dynamic to actually pouring into people. and actually watching them change their life. So we run a training academy. We've got
Yep.
about 100 people in there now,
Yep.
give or take, 100 people in there, mentees, clients that we work with, and we show them how to go from absolute knowing zero about
Mhm.
crypto or trading or investing to becoming trading masters, which is why we're called the Trading Masters. So yeah, it's brilliant. We meet up every 2 months as well.
Yep.
Is in face to face in Nottingham, where I'm based.
Yep.
And I always say when people are umming and ahhing about joining, I'm like, well, I won't be running intimate, personal meetings if it was anything was dodgy about it, because you'd all
Yeah.
kick me head in. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, we
And
all
how long
meet
has this
together.
been running, the Trading Masters?
A couple of years now, about two
Yeah.
years. Yeah, 2 years. Because I was into property before, and I was doing a bit of mentoring with the property side as well. Anything that I get involved with,
Yeah.
my personality says I just have to teach it because I live for this. I live for
Yeah.
this. So yeah, taking people
Helping.
that know absolutely nothing about investing or crypto. Because the thing is, in what we teach, the fundamentals of what we teach with the crypto side, it's called the
Yeah.
trade masses. You can use that with forex or the stock market or anything. It's the same principle of,
Right.
of how to read the charts. So you're learning skills for life.
Yeah, so during lockdown, obviously, you homed in on your mistakes, you made your journals, you created, as you called it, your blueprint, and then you focused onto it. What made you? When did you finally step away from property? Then when did you get to the point and just go, do you know what? Now's time for me. The money, obviously, I'm assuming, is a lot quicker. You've got the daily wins. You've touched on your 500 to 1,000 a day. That as like a base. When was that sort of decision finally made, or do you still do some property stuff now, or
Yeah, so still do property stuff. We've got some buy to lets. I'm trying to. Basically, with me, if I try and focus on multiple things, I do them all very badly. I'm
right?
best when I focus on just one thing, and then when I focus on that one thing, I become extremely obsessed with it and make it extremely successful.
Mm,
So it's not that property's negative and I hate it and I've moved away from it. We've still got our foot in property, me and my wife, but it's not as prominent in our lives. And the reason being, with anything that I do, I like to think, right, not only do I risk assess it, I look at what the worst case, the best case, and the most likely case of any scenario is. I also like to just look at business in general. How do we make the most amount of money by doing the least amount of work? That's
yeah.
anybody, we don't want to be busy fools. So looking at the amount of effort and work that I have to put into property, it's not saying
Yeah.
it's bad, it's very good. It's served me very well over the years and still does. And then when I look at the effort and the return on investment from trading and investing, it's so much easier. Not only can you earn more money from trading, and there might be developers listening to this saying, well, I can build a block of flats and make a couple of million. You can. And some of my clients are high-end developers that build massive high-rise student blocks. They are
Right.
stressed to the eyeballs. The
Yeah.
amount of work and brain power that has to go in managing projects and people is vast. It's
Hmm.
massive, and I do not envy you guys. But when it's trading, all you're doing is managing your own digital assets, your own digital portfolio from the comfort of your own office. And yes, it can be taxing on the brain, but it's so much easier, and there's no scale. You can't get downvalued on a remortgage or a revaluation of a property. It's if we do the due diligence right and we get into a certain asset base, whether it be stock, shares, forex, or in my case crypto, mate, it can 10x in the space of 2 weeks,
Mm.
whatever
And
investment you've got in there. So
so, what would you say your biggest lesson has been then from the transition or from property into sort of crypto world now? What would you say is one of your big takeaways from it all? Obviously, you've touched on, not doing too many things at once, which I think is I see that a lot in the world of property. People try and do 5 or 6 different strategies and don't get it right. I think that's a real good factor. And anything from investing, you should focus your energy on 1 or 2 things and master it like you've done. Spend your time, dedicate, get addicted to, as you touched on, get addicted to that 1 or 2 things just to master them. But what would you take away as your biggest lesson? Because for me, we done too many things,
yeah,
too many strategies, and that, looking back now, as with everything we have achieved, we could have done double what we've done if we'd have just mastered and homed in on 1 or 2 things. So that's a big lesson for me that I look back on. What would you say your biggest thing's been?
That I didn't discover trading quicker. That's the biggest one. I always thought it was a scam, and I thought the amount of years I've wasted. Not wasted, there's lessons in everything, but if I would have discovered something this good sooner, it would have saved me a lot of stress and a lot of work in my life. But I would say to anybody listening, if imagine that you become, we've all got habits, we've all got obsessions, addictions, habits, things that we focus on in life.
Yeah.
Most of them are unhealthy. But imagine for the next 6 to 12 months that you could study, become obsessed, and really, really focus on, it doesn't have to be trading, it could be absolutely anything, but that if you just did that, how different that your life would actually look. No matter what it is, because it doesn't have to be trading, it could be anything in the world. But if you've got an interest and a passion, or if you've got a few goals or a plan that you really want to achieve, you'll find that your own bad habits, your own bad obsessions and addictions or whatever it is, are probably holding you back massively. So I would say what I've learned is putting all of that, all of the things that I desire, all of the things that I'm good at, because one thing I've learned in older age, I'm only 38, but older age is I've focused on my weaknesses for too long. For many, many years, I've focused on how to get my weaknesses better and neglecting my strengths. Whereas if you focus just purely on what God has blessed you with, what has God blessed you with? What natural gifts are you naturally good at? So me, I'm analytical and I'm technical. Or where was flipping trading 10 years ago? It should have been at the forefront of my mind. But I focused too much on trying to be like everybody else. I've compared myself to people. They say that comparison is the thief of joy. You know, if you want to feel a joyless, discouraged, disappointing life, compare yourself to others. It's always going to bring you down. So focus
True
on
point.
what you are good at, what your strengths are, what you're naturally good at, because you'll find that when you do focus on that, you won't need to try very hard and you'll become successful a lot easier than trying to be like everybody else.
So cool. So you've obviously transitioned into the world of crypto, doing very well. People can see it that, and you know you're quite vocal about it, and you're bringing people in, and you know you're opening yourself up to showing people that it is true and it does work.
Mm-hmm.
What does a day look like then for Simon? What's the world of crypto given you? Is it, if I was to ask you to write down your ideal day, would you say you're round about being able to get to that point?
110%. So ideal day for me is starting the day with walking my dog with my wife. So we're just moving at the moment to the countryside. That's something that we've always wanted to do. We've put it off for ages just to find that right house. So for us, it's being in the countryside, walking the dog, being in the fresh air, being in nature, appreciating the good things in life, starting the day right. If we live near the beach, which is another dream of ours that we may do in the near future, you know, live near the beach, it'll be getting a second house near the beach. It's countryside and the beach for us. Starting the day right, walking the dog with my wife, just chatting about life, chatting about businesses, chatting about the goals, chatting about what we want to do, because it just starts the day well. However you build anything, whether it be your day or your business or your life, you've got to have a firm foundation. And that for me really, really sets the day up nicely. And then after that, come home, have some breakfast, read my Bible. I'm a born again Christian, so I'm a man of God. Love Jesus, so read my Bible, get some wisdom from that. That gives me massive direction and has helped me through some tough times in life. And then I hit the charts. What I'll do is I'll hit the charts probably around 10:30. I'll do a market update for my mentees. The thing I love about doing the market updates and looking after a bunch of clients, etc., is it makes me a better trader. I then have a duty to get on the charts, let the guys know what's happening with the stock market, let the guys know what's happening with Bitcoin. We need to keep an eye on the stock market, because if we don't know what's going on with Bitcoin. Bitcoin follows the stock market. So give them a bit of an overview on what's happening with the stock market, what's happening with the US dollar, what's happening with Bitcoin, and then we can start to set trades. So what I'll do on the video is I'll set trade live. So I'll set the trades up live in front of them and let them know what's in my head. So I spend an hour doing that on a video, set my trades up, go in a few trades. Sometimes I have to wait for them to kick in. So I'll probably work an hour to 2 hours, sometimes 3 if I'm having a good
So
time.
do your mentees get to follow your trades live?
Yeah, I get to follow them live. I share everything. It's not financial advice. I say, look, guys, this is what I'm looking at. These are the buy-ins. This is where I'm placing my stop loss, and I'm going to take profit here. It's up to you whether you want to follow. And me with my 2 coaches, I've got 4 members of staff, and I've got 2 coaches that basically help me out with the looking after the guys as well. And we all do the same. I've told them all to do the same. That we share every single one of our trades. So not only can you earn while you learn, but you get insight as to what we're
Yeah.
looking at. So yeah, for me, it's a couple of hours on the trading. You know, I aim for my targets of $500 to $1,000 a day. I'm $562 up at the moment on a trade that I got in this morning. It's a good life. You know, you can aim for the 10 grands and the 20 grands, and some days they do happen. You do get your 20 grand days, but to keep it nice and consistent, I said to my wife, what can we afford to live on and what gives us a good life? 500 to $1,000 as a benchmark, as a minimum benchmark. And then I'll just go down, spend some time with my wife, just chill out a little bit, walk the dog again. He needs 2 walks a day.
Yeah, nice. What
And
dog
then
have you got?
it's only a little toy poodle, but he thinks he's a Rottweiler. His
Hmm.
name's Chester. Yeah, so we've not got kids, so he's like my little son anyway. So he's our pride and joy. So yeah, and then whatever we decide to do at the evening, whether we choose to go out with friends, you know, go to the cinema or eat out, or just spend a night in front of the TV, we're quite simple folk. We like the simple things in life. But to be honest, being poorly has made me appreciate the the simple things in life. You know, being in hospital prevented me from being able to be in the bed with my wife and just sleep together and watch TV together in bed, and all the nice simple things that we do. We also love our holidays as well. So whenever we get a chance, we're down Cornwall, we're in Wales, we're abroad, we're flying here, there, and everywhere. We always wanted to travel, so we go on a lot of holidays as well. I always try and get a holiday in once a month as well. Because
Nice.
doing this as well, Gav, you can do it anywhere in the world. So I can still
Yeah,
look after all my mentees and trading anywhere in the world. It's
that
just
was
got
that's
an
what I was going to get onto. So for someone who wanted to start out into it, what could they expect timescale wise? You know, I know unfortunately social media reels you into the shiny penny, but let's deep dive into realistically someone who was green to the whole world of crypto. How long or what sort of time should they dedicate to getting themselves up to speed before they should start doing or even doing some bits and bobs?
well. I mean, obviously, I'd say get trained up. I wish trading masters existed when I first got into it, because it would have saved me thousands. Honestly, because I had access to money, I was just ploughing thousands of pounds into trading, thinking, "Oh, I've lost that. Don't matter. I'll bring some more in." Get trained up, whether it be a mentor or whether you're watching YouTube videos, etc. The problem is with YouTube videos is it's very surface level. They'll tell you the whats and the whys sometimes, but they'll never show you the hows. Join a mentorship, join our academy, join any kind of academy to make sure that you're getting the correct trading. How long does it take, for instance, if you join our academy? Well, because you can copy our trades, you can start anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks and start making money because you're copying what we're doing. How long does it take for you to become self-sufficient? Anywhere from 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months, if you give it your all, watch all the education, tune into the coaching calls, etc., you're going to find yourself in a place where, put it this way, this is a massive example that's probably not your norm. We had a guy called Craig join us last week. Already, he's got the knowledge to set his own trades up after a week, and his
Yeah,
name is Craig Bell. He's joined our mentorship a week ago, and he sent me a chart, and he says, "I put this Bitcoin chart outside. I didn't think it was going to be anything. It bounced and gave me a 5% move." Now, depending on whatever went in on that, he's obviously got the ability to create wealth now. So it depends on your level of intelligence, how much time you've got to study, whether you're a quick learner, whether you've got 5 kids and your mother-in-law living with you. What does your life look like? The more time that you can give to it, the quicker that you can supersede your knowledge and start making money. So I'd say on average 3 to 6 months, I would say, before you're at a stage where you're like, you know what, I'm getting the hang of this. I reckon I could just print money from my mobile phone.
yeah. And touching on
Is
the
that,
fact that you're saying,
do you think, are you happy with what I said there?
Yeah, that
Any
sort. I think that
any
sort of makes a bit of sense, really. Like these sort of things are right. I mean, for me, the reason why we really got our heads down and pumped through a portfolio and quite a large number of transactions quickly was we sort of, I in particular, dedicated my life to it. But
Yeah,
between us, we had no kids and we sacrificed evenings, weekends to get to a point very, very quickly.
yeah,
You refer it back to anything. It's like if you want to go to the gym and get fit,
yeah.
you can get fit in 3 weeks or you can get fit in 6 months. It is how much you want to dedicate to it. And yeah, that the daily habits. I think I like the fact that you said that earlier. It's about forming habits. A
Mm,
massive word for any form of investing is consistency.
yeah.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can dip in and out of these things. I think you need to remain consistent to keep your eye on what's going on, and learn from your mistakes. But yeah, no, I fully understand and get all that side of things.
I think for me, it's your hunger. So the resource is there. It's all there for you to absorb and get it. But it's like the question for me always comes back 180. How much do you want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice? Like you just said, Gav. If
Mm.
you are, well, flipping out, 8 to 10 weeks, you can be smashing it. But most people with busy lives, it might take 3 to 6 months. But at the end of the day, you got to look. You've got short term goals, haven't you, and long term goals. You think, well,
Yeah,
if this is like riding a bike, nobody can take away that knowledge that you learn. But if you
yeah.
learn a skill where you can print money from your mobile phone or your laptop anywhere in the world, well, nobody's going to ever take those skills from you. So whenever you decide to do it, as long as you're taking note and learning the knowledge that you need from the resource, the world's your flipping oyster, mate.
Where do you see Bitcoin going then? If only 6% of the globe are currently invested in cryptos and that side of things, where do you see the world of crypto in? Let's do in the short term with obviously Trump. He seems to be quite pro it. Where do you think it's sort of going in the short term over the next sort of 12 months?
Okay, so today it's at 100k. Um, the next stop is 125 to 130, I think, from my analysis. From there are people that are saying the next stop then is 250. So you've got different cycles every 4 years. So we're in the bull cycle of 2025. It's how high does this go? We're already making all-time highs on the weekly.
Yeah.
How high does this go in this bull run? And then obviously it pulls back in the bear market, consolidates for
So
two
the
years.
bull is when it's pushing forward, and the
Yeah,
bear, just for people to understand, is when it's falling back, right?
that's it. So yeah, I'll really break it down really simply. So a bull market is when the price is rising more than it's falling. So we're in an upward trend. So for instance, that's what we've been in for the last 6 to 12 months. We've been in an upward trend. That's a bull market. It means where money is entering the market, the crypto market and the stock market. A bear market is where the price falls more than it rises. It means that people are selling off more than they're actually buying. Now, the beauty about crypto, and this is what I love, we can short and long the market. This is why. So it's recession proof. You don't lose your job when you're on your backside. It's recession proof. So
Yeah.
whether we're in a bear market or a bull market, if we're in a bull market, we can long, which means we make money as the price rises. And if we're in a bear market or economic crisis where there's recession, you can short the market and make money as the price falls. That's the beauty of it. So in this bull run, we could reach 130k. We could reach to 200k. It
How long
all
would a bull market typically last? So obviously you said 6 to 12 months. Is there much time left in it, or is that sort of quite difficult? It's quite early in its
well,
lifespan.
it's difficult to say, but with Trump getting in, he's very very pro crypto, and so's his cabinet. So I would say that could possibly extend the bull market for longer than it may have done under Biden, because America rule the world, and whatever if America coughs, as you say, we catch a cold. So it's like they've prolonged it. So I think anywhere from July to November, I would say, is when the bull market will come to an end. But again, we still thrive as a community. I set up this community in the heat of the bear market, so this mentorship. So whether we're in a bull or bear, it doesn't matter. You can still make money because a bear market, you just invert the charts
Yeah.
basically. So you just invert the charts and you short it more than you long it. So it doesn't matter when you get in it. whether we're in a bull or a bear, you just trade the charts every single day, set your levels and trade it.
Mm.
So it doesn't really matter, really. Well, we don't find it a problem anyway.
So you touched with the goal side of things. What's the goal then? What's the long term vision for Simon? I'm gonna I know I've thrown this one on you, but I've just thought of this. It's just
No, it's
the
brilliant.
way the way the conversation's sort of flowing, and just seeing where do you see yourself with what you're trying to do here, what you're trying to achieve with the Traders Masters, and what's the long goal for it all?
Right. So just to end on your previous question, so I think this bull market anywhere from 130 to possibly 200. An average based on the charts. They are saying that Bitcoin could reach 1 million per coin, which is pretty significant if the money keeps entering in
So what,
from
1,000 now, 100,000 now.
100,000 now. So they could say that it could 10x over the next 10 to 20 years. So it's a massive investment. What are the goals for me? I've got to admit, I am living my dream now. I am at home with my family. We've got finance to make sure we've got longevity to make sure that we never have to work another day in our life. So we're retired in our 30s. It's a good place to be financially in terms of the family. But my goals, if I was to lie on my deathbed, that's why I always say, if you was to lie on your deathbed, can you say that you lived that full life? And for me, it's helping people. It's helping people have choices, giving people choices. So in this world that we live in, sadly, it's ruled by money. So you need money in order to achieve most things. Of course, your health is your wealth. That's what you need more than anything. But after that, in order to go on the holidays, in order to spend more time with your family, in order to get out of the job that you hate, in order to buy your dream home, in order to go on the holidays and do all these things, you need money. There's no doubt about it. So for me, it's telling as many people as possible that there is another way that isn't necessarily property, that isn't necessarily old style money or the conventional ways. There's a different way to do things that you can do from your mobile phone anywhere in the world, whether you're in Australia, America, England, Europe, wherever you are, Asia, you can make money. So for me, it's to grow the trading masters and just provide opportunities for people to learn simply how to trade from their mobile phone and create a life.
Well, it wouldn't be me unless I didn't ask a few cheeky questions. Two things in. How much would it cost? How much for me to start would you say I need?
How much do you need to start? You can start with in terms of just trading. You can start with
just trading.
500 quid. You
Yeah.
start with 500 quid. The reason why I say that is because we use something called futures, which is leverage trading, which means we use our money and we use the platform, the trading exchange money as well to bulk up our trades. So I can make £1,000 a day probably using 50 quid of my own money. Now anybody that's listening that understands futures might say that's a bit risky, but for me, because I know where to buy and where to sell, and I'm quite strategic the way I trade, I don't need much of my own money in order to make a lot of money, because we use the exchange money and our money to bulk up the trade. So it can be anywhere from 500 quid, mate. Anywhere from 500 quid to £5,000 pot. It's entirely up to you how much you've got at that particular time, but you don't need thousands to get started. And it all depends. What daily target would you be happy with?
Yeah.
50 quid? 100 quid a day?
Yeah.
200?
Yeah. It's all relevant on what you wanna get out of it at the end. Yeah.
So I will say anywhere from 500 quid.
And on lastly, any top little tip you can give us for anyone listening that wants a little tip on crypto?
So
Any?
I'm an open book and we'll give away as much value. We can stay on here for another half an hour and you can question me to high heaven if you want to. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, tip for me would be buy support and sell resistance. If you've got a little bit of knowledge, you'll understand what that means. So be patient. The crypto market, the trading market's all about being patient. So if you spot a good level of support, for instance, that you want to long, whether that be the stock market or crypto, that level might not even be anywhere in sight at the moment. So I'm waiting for a level to get hit on a massive pullback, and it's got to drop another 30% in order to hit that level. But if it hits that support level and bounces, I'm going to catch a massive wave on that. So I would say patience, set your levels on your charts,
Yep.
wait for it to come in and buy. Plan the
Yep.
trade and trade the plan. But Gavin, ask me a few questions that you think you and your friends want to know. Ask me anything that you want to. Anything that you want. Because
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know what knowledge base you lads have got, you see, or ladies and gentlemen have got. So it's like,
yeah.
you ask me.
I think to be fair, mate, you've really sort of homed in on a few things for me to think about. It was, you know, again, like any form of thing, you just got to, how much do you want it? I think is the thing. How much time are you gonna, you say sacrifice, but is it for the greater good? You know, the biggest thing is how much do you really want it? So I think I've taken away from these things, and I look back on when I first got into doing the footsie market in 2007, and I really
Yeah,
wanted to change my life, and I dedicated a couple of hours a day to doing it for quite a few months, and then it just become a few hours a week, just while I was doing a few trades here and there. Then
yeah,
you go to property, and I dedicated hours, weekends, and months of my life to get that up and running. So, you know, I think that's a great point. Be patient. You know, I know we would all like to change our lives overnight, but it doesn't always happen that way. So I think that's something's good. But just get the right people around you, Simon. Is a big thing for me. Get the right people around you. Look into people, speak to people, have the right conversations, and then focus on what you want to do and utilize your strengths where you can.
totally. And that's why we've set the community up the way we have, because you become like the 5 people you hang around with.
Yeah,
You do. If you chat to trading to people down the pub and they just don't get it, they're going to talk you down and make you feel like a fool, and you're not going to achieve much. If you're around people who have got the same goal and you all want the same, and you're egging each other on and you're encouraging each other, you're going to do very, very well. But here's one tip for you.
yeah,
Why the statistic says that 90% of traders lose and 10% win. Why?
right,
Lack of patience and discipline. I'd say the two biggest lessons in trading is patience and discipline. If you can nail these, you've cracked it, and I'm still on my way with that. You've got resistance. If you're a trader or you're an investor, get the daily chart up on your trading view or whatever chart you're using, the daily chart, the macro view, the bird's eye view of it.
yeah,
Find key support, key resistance,
yeah,
mark out where you want to enter a particular trade or investment. Wait for that to kick in. The reason why people lose, this is one of the reasons why, sorry, just in case anybody tries to say that's not the reason why everybody
yeah,
loses. This is why the majority of people lose. What they do is they don't wait to short resistance and long support. What they do is they try to trade no man's land. No man's
yeah,
land is the noise in the middle of the range that you're trying
yeah,
to trade. So they're trying to trade it. They're getting chopped up, and the way the markets are designed is it's for retailers, people like ourselves. You've got institutions and bankers. They're the
yeah,
big boys and the whales. Then you've got the retailers, that is little old you and me. The market's designed to destroy retail traders because most people don't know what they're doing, because they try and trade the noise in the middle of the range. Whereas if you wait to trade the outer parts of the range, so the resistance and the support
yeah.
levels, if
So
you
that's the
wait
top. That's the top and the bottom
top and the
of
bottom,
where it's been remaining or where it's
yeah,
projected to get to.
ranging, that's it,
Yeah,
you've got it. So
yeah,
if you trade those areas and the noise, if you did that twice a month, you'd make a killing.
yeah,
But people haven't got the discipline or the patience to wait because they want to make their 500 quid today. Well,
yeah.
imagine if you could make an extra couple of grand a month. That'd be
Mm.
nice to add on to your wages just by waiting for key levels to get hit of support and waiting for that to get hit. By there, we call it swing trading. You're basically trading the swing high and the swing low. You're
Yeah,
trading the highs and the lows like that. But it takes so much discipline and self control to do that, because as human beings, we want things yesterday. We want it now. We want to be rich today. It's
yeah,
like, if you want to be rich, let's take a leaf out of Warren Buffett's ethos, where he says, it's all about the big picture, the long
yeah.
term. Um,
Well, I think that's a fantastic quote to finish on. It's all about the big picture in the long term.
mm,
I could I could really stop jumping into this, but I know you're busy, and I'm sure we're going to be speaking more from here on inwards. So
Um,
got plenty of other questions and information to pick your brains on. But I think it's been great, just to sort of as a refresh and just for people to sort of understand that, you know, to diversify the portfolio sometimes isn't a bad thing. But just whether it's property or crypto or whatever it is, I think
yeah,
you've really thrown out a couple of really good sort of, you know, educational bits of information, and I can see why you're sort of mentoring and working with people. You know, you're touching on things like the consistency, focusing on your strengths, concentrating on one thing till you get good at that. Be patient. You know, them sort of points are all good things that you can tell that have all come from mistakes that have been made in the past. So, Simon, I'm sure people are going to enjoy it. I thought it was really informative, and I'm very interested in, you know, picking your brains and knowing a bit more about you. So, for anyone else who's interested, where can they find you? How can they get in touch?
awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gavin, for having me. If you ever want me on again and you've got a stream of 10 questions that you want to ask me, I'll come on and I'll just give it all away for free. It's completely fine. So yeah, more than happy to help you and your
Beautiful.
audience, no problem. And make sure you make sure that that happens as well and pull me up on that one. Where can they find me? So on my profile, I suppose it would be my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Mr.Simon.Taylor. If you want to put that on, where do you post this? On Spotify? You can probably
Yeah,
put that link
it's on
there.
Spotify and Apple, and yeah, across them all really. Spotify and Apple is where it's released, and then
Fantastic.
I do advertise it on sort of Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. So it's I'll pump it out to as many people as we can in a few groups and stuff we're in, and I know there's a few crypto people in there that might have some other questions or might want to
Yeah,
jump in and have a conversation with you. It's been great. I'll certainly be in touch soon, and we'll speak again soon.
fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on, Gav.
Thank you, Simon.